doesn't do the darkness anymore.
Well, you gotta put the light.
I don't know why.
Yeah, that's, so who is that? That's exactly where he is. Who is that?
What is this?
You put it in Google Photos. And
That's where it is.
background.
So this guy, Dr. Mark Gaffney,
Yeah.
I'm standing in front of the same corner bookcase in Sarnbine.
That's why I think it's a AI image.
That's a from guy. That's what it is.
Hey, well, it's fine, it's his agent, it's his lawyer.
Not his agent.
No, not this guy.
You said
whose
who's
house
agent?
he was in.
His Jewish agent, his Jewish lawyer. You said a Jewish agent in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
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 Been a weird week for Jewish people in the news. We don't say that.
You don't say.
I'm recording. Recorded, but
This has to be posted. This was reported.
You could pause the recording.
I could stop the recording and start a new one. But yeah. Yeah, L'chaim. Okay. Let's jump in. Jump into we barely got into the halacha last week, so we'll just jump right into that. Okay. So last week what we discussed is the fact that one of the most the central drasha, the central din that creates many of the complex shilas that come up when it comes to Hilchos Nida and determining whether or not an Isha is a Nida or not. These are generally where the shilas get, complicated. Is in this Indian. The central din comes from a drasha in the Gemara, drasha of Shmuel. Isha kisiya zava dam yi azova b'bisara. B'bisara is like Shmuel actually targets b'bisara. She has to feel it. She will not be a nida midraisa. Wasn't Jack Yankee Rand last week?
Maybe.
Claimed it was you last week. Well, are you on again? Is your wife on again? No. Okay. It's like, wait a minute. Is that you? Oh, okay. No, you could be on. Go for it. No problem. I was trying to figure out who the second guy was. I was like, I was thinking you claimed you were Jack last week, and I was like, I don't know. Jackie's here now, and there's Jack still on. Yeah. Anyway, so the drasach targets sorry that to become a nida midiraisa, a woman has to have some level of discharge of dam that she feels it. Now that the active, what we would call active hargasha nowadays, is not really something that women don't feel. What we do have is in the place of active hargasha, different things that create either some sort of mimicked type of hargasha that we'll get to, we haven't gotten to that, or such a large discharge of dam that we have to assume they had a hargasha. And generally that's just when a woman gets her period, we say, okay, she had a hargasha. Obviously the daite. We got into what that means last week. We're not getting into it again, and that's what we never know. Now, what I ended off with last week, and where I'll begin this week, but I'm gonna begin with it to chazer it. We'll put a pin in it, and then we'll come back in it to discuss a nafkamina that comes up. Is the very important Claire, very famous Claire from the Sidrei Tara. Sidrei Tara, I forget when the Sidrei Tara from. You remember anything about the Sidrei Tara? This is like his one, pretty sure German, type of German Rav. Thinking 1700s, but anyway, yeah. So making a trade when it's not a bad trade. Anyway, the Sidratara Claire is Hargosha, is the side of Hargosha there because it's a din, one of the dinim of Nida. Don't ask questions. Before you ask questions, it doesn't have to do with just to see it's a dam. A woman has to feel the dam coming out in order to make her Nida Midrash. Or is it to bavorn that maybe the dam didn't come from the right place, right? Dam has to be uterine blood. We discussed some of the background of what that is, but it's got to be that, dam, the lining of the uterus being discharged. It's not any blood, and a person can bleed from anywhere in their body. So to bring a raya it's damnida, that it's actually uterine blood. We need that's the rye that we need is hargasha. 1780, German. What was the name?
Chanan Ashkenazi.
Hanan Ashkenazi. Yeah, anyway, that is the Sagittarius Claire. The way he goes Lamaisa, and the way this is also led to the Shulchan Aruch Harav went with, is that there's two dinim. That there's a din, there's a hargasha is a din, as Xerius HaKal, so a woman was to have hargasha. There's a second din that's a different drasha. It's based off a Gemara that Rabbi Kiva answered. Rabbi Kiva's Talmidim were, what sort of where they were gossiping that he was being too makel about certain halachos in Hilchos Nida, and he said dam v'le kesem. It was a new drasha. Shein and Torah kish kisi yazav dam yazav b'sar. It has to be blood. Blood is not a stain. A stain is not what it means. Blood means to be bleeding. When a woman just finds a stain, that's not the din. That's not the din nida midiraisa. That the Sujata explains is the second din. The Shulchan Aruch Harav and the Sujata both explain that's the second din. That is the raya dikadin. So there's one din hargasha, the etzem sensation you have to each has to feel. The secondary din is that without some sort of raya, at least midiraisa, that the dam came from the urinaria. When a woman just finds a stain, she can assume, she can say maybe it came from somewhere else. Even though we showed him say lashon that the makar, which is the Gemara term for the uterus, the makar is all lahitzidam. It's like an active volcano. Refer to it, right? It's all lahitzidam. It's much more likely that it's going to motzidam than any other place in the body. Any other place in the body needs something external to happen to it. It needs a cut. It needs some sort of something to happen to it, as opposed to mashenkin the makar does not. It just does it. Afal Pikain, midiraisa, you're allowed to say, bring me a proof that it came from the makar, with short of any proof. Whenever a woman just finds a stain, without any proof that it came from the makar, we would say down like kesem and be matarid. Those are the two dinim. There are certain cases where the poskim speak out. You will lose the heter of hargasha. We'll get to some examples of those cases too. But you might still have the heter of down like kesem. And there are other cases where you might not have the heter of dam v'le kesem, like what we call a kanua, wiping. Is not you would lose the person say you don't have the heter anymore of dam v'le kesem because of the proximity to the area of the makar. But afal pikin, you have the heter of not having hargasha, and therefore it's important we use both these dinim. We do use at different times to be matir and say a woman is not going to be a nida midraisa. Now, this is all on the level of Nida Midaraisa. We're going to get now, I want to discuss Nida Midarabanan a little, and then circle back to the important nafkamina between the Tzitray and the Shulchan Aruch Harav in this machlekes. But okay, Nida Midarabanan, the Gemara, the Simon in Simon Kuf Tzaddik. I love to learn with Chassanim. The first time we get together is learn the din of Hargasha. You're not a Nida unless you feel, and it has to, and therefore it's only when you get your period, this or that. And then the beginning of the second time, I start with Simon, the beginning of Simon Kuf Tzaddik, where the Shulchan Aruch paskins that midiraisa any isha tamei of lo asura bar lachatagrish atadam mibasara. Midiraisa nisha is not tamei; she's not asur to her husband achatagrish atadam mibasara. Avol chachamim gazru al kol kesem shenimtza bein begufa bein b'gdeh she tamei of asur lebaila. But that the chachamim or geyser any kesem, any stain that she finds on her body and her begadim, that she's tmeya. So I'll ask them, do you keep durabonans? Durabonans matter to you, and if they do, then you see like the very disappointed face now. Suddenly it's all over. The good times are over, and the chachamim or geyser in any kesem said begufa or b'gdeha. Then you get to be the hero and say, no, it's not so. It's not so simple. Even though it's true that the lashon is the chachamim or geyser in any kesem, it's really not any kesem. And it's kind of like the chachamim or geyser. What we really should say is that the chachamim or geyser on like 0.01% of ksumim that women find that she's going to be anida midarabana. Because at the end of the day, we have a bunch of ways to get out of nida midarabana, which we'll get to right now. But it's always important to differentiate that these three kulas that we're going to discuss now, the three things that you need to become a nida midarabana, are only for nida midarabana. And anytime we're dealing with kashash nida midaraisa, mainly that we're talking about someone who may have had a hargasha or nem on had a hargasha. Anytime we're talking about chashash nida midiraisa, then these kulas do not apply. And that's an important thing that people always need to keep in mind, and Rabbanim need to keep in mind as they get shilos, that these three kulas are only for nida b'darbanan. They're special kulas that we made there. Once you're dealing with potentially nida b'diraisa, you essentially lose these kulas. And we'll explain a little more as we go. So what are the three major kulas for a nida b'darbanan?
Don't need them in their eyes nowadays.
There is need of dress when a woman, the standard psak, the standard mahal the person go with is there is need of dress when a woman gets her period or has a lot of blood that we nem on Argish love
But I thought we said that there's no hargasha these days. And
Argish, we discussed it last time. A concept of Argish diet. We discussed it very last time. The three qualifications of what you need for to become an Nida B'Darbanan, what would any one of them individually would make it that you do not have to keep the dinim of Nida B'Darbanan. The dinim of Nida B'Darbanan are essentially the same as Nida B'Diraisa, but the first din is that the Chamim were not gozer al kesem at jeheba kagris. It has to be kagris va'id. It has to be the shiur of a gris. A gris is a bean that they had in those days, and it has to be bigger than the size of that bean. And the Mishnah in the Goin, this shiur is, by the way, is the same shiur that we have by certain negas, by tzaras. Right, it's a shiur of a gris, and the Mishnah speaks out how big is a gris. A gris is katesh hadashim, 9 lentils. How much is a lentil? A lentil is lamed vav saris. It equals in the end to 36 hairs. The place can say 36 hairs on a person's body, meaning like on your arm or something like that. Are we dealing with a super hairy person? Are we dealing with a werewolf? It doesn't. At the end of the day, the Sam Sefer came and gave all the Klal Yisrael the shiur that they're generally they're simon on. I think everyone basically goes with the shiur that Sam Sefer nowadays. At least Ikra did. There's coolest if you want it, if you need to try to stretch something. But the shiur of the Sam Sefer is a penny. He doesn't actually say a penny. It wasn't around a penny, but he draws a circle and in a tshuva, and if you put a penny, it matches exactly up to that circle. So it's got to be a little better than a penny. Rav Moshe says, and tshuva says, use an American penny. It's exactly the shiur of the Sam Sefer, that's generally Klal Yisrael. So that has to be bigger than that. What?
In one spot.
So the halacha is yes that it has to be in one spot. In multiple spots will not combine. So that's to be in one spot. There's a major shiloh between the Chavos Das and other poskim. The Chavos Das is of the opinion. The Chavos Das is, for those who are familiar with Nachum Nezikin, more the Chavos Das is the Nesivus, major Bar Plukto, the Tzais HaChoshen of Yaakov Melisa, major Mechaber Svarim. The Chavos Das says that it's the entirety of the stain can't be bigger than a penny. Meaning, what it means to say is that what's the pshat in this stain, this penny thing for a stain? The Gemara says that in those days there were these bugs that were all over the place, and these bugs would leave blood stains. And if we're going to say that any stain that's found on the bed, even that any stain that's found is gonna make an isha nida, and no woman will ever be tired her husband. They're going to constantly having issues. They'll never be good, and therefore we have to make it that the stain she found is bigger, that it can't have come from that bug.
The same color as that nida also.
It was the same color and the same and therefore could have problem. Well, it seems that these are like super mosquitoes, and it sounds like mosquitoes don't only leave blood if they just bit someone, whatever call it. But it sounds like these were some version, but monster mosquitoes or something like that are constantly leaving blood stains. Hard for us to imagine nowadays. The person discussed. So why are we keeping this cool anymore nowadays? It makes no sense, right? Elamai, the Teretz is, and Pesach tweets out that the Gezerah, the Shas that it was Nikva, that's how Chazal were Kaveya the Gezerah. That's only bigger than Gris. It's not that they said you're allowed to rely on the bug. They said we are only creating the din tumas ksamim. The tumas d'Rabbanan is only going to apply when it's bigger than this. When it's less than this, it will not apply, and therefore that's what was created. And we don't make new d'Rabbanans. We retain the essence of the din d'Rabbanan that was only created. So I always like to use this when someone's complaining that our system is super unfair, that we only like keep, Minhag Yisrael when it's a Humrah, and whenever it's a Kula, like, oh, it doesn't apply anymore nowadays, the Kula of the Star doesn't apply anymore, so we can't be Makel anymore. Tell them, no, look, like Chris, it's incorrect and not true. Just next time, we'll try to understand the system a little better and figure out why it works that way in many instances. Vaguer is true about it than not. But this is certainly an example where there was a din midarbon l'kula, and we kept it, even though no one in the right mind thinks it makes any sense anymore nowadays to go with a shiur. But that is the shiur we go with, and it has to be it has to be in one spot. If it was multiple spots, we say you can be toilet on a bunch of them. There's a chumrah on the body. I don't want to get into it right now. So. But yeah, in the Stam case, it has to be. We'll also say that the Chavas Das is of the opinion that that the size of the stain is bigger than a penny, includes the entirety of the stain, what color it is. So when you have these a stain of a discharge that hasn't it's very often, a lot of them they're not solid blood. It's not like a nosebleed where it's just like solid blood coming out. And so it's there's other stuff there. We're all married fellows here, you know what I'm talking about. And the entirety of the stain may often be bigger than a penny. But the down part of it very often isn't. I was also of the opinion that it was the stain that these bugs left that were the size of grass also had other things in it, and therefore it says that the blood part of it has to be a penny. It mimicked what a woman's discharge might look like, but he says that the entirety of the stain is enough. Being a penny. Rav Moshe says you should be machmer like it. Thankfully,
what's the bug? What's the bug called? And when was this?
When is this? In times of the Gemara talks about the bug. It's driving me crazy right now. I've stopped myself a few times as I'm talking to try to remember the name of the bug, and it's driving me nuts. 1 second. Hold on, I'm gonna have to look it up.
I had to put you on the spot. Continue going.
You're good. Yeah, right. As if it's like the first time you've ever done it. It's gonna drive me crazy, so I'm gonna look it up. It's a Gemara in India. Yeah, it's a Gemara in Kesem, 8th pair. No, don't ask me for a donation. But Tzaddik says, hey. Oh, guys, I'm telling Bikina. Bikina is the name of the bug. That help you? Now you're good? You should have said, oh, Kina, the Haley Bikina, now I know exactly.
So close to Nida.
Right, yeah. So yeah. That is that. So that's the panel. Like I was saying, thankfully we are not. We're not machmer like the Chavas Das, and most of the places we go to nowadays will tell you the red spot needs to be bigger than a penny. The Messiah of Rabbanim in the place must be very makel about this. I've spoken to some with discussions about this kind of stuff before. But I've had cases. Usually, there's like a totem pole up of Rabbanim, I guess, and Flatbush, and one of the biggest in Flatbush, the biggest in the world, is Davidson Rav, the son of the Ber Moshe. One person lives in Flatbush, and if you ever have, you shouldn't rule the opportunity, the needs have to go to him to show him a shayla, because it's just geschmack to have to go in and see him and talk to him. But anyway, sometimes I'll get ones that are like really big, and it looks like there's no way. And I'll take it to him. He'll be like, and there's nothing here. Like there's come out, no, I'm here. And he'll say, listen, what do you look at? You see a big stain. There's a lot of red there, but you see half of this is really white that has like a little red mixed into it, so it's showing up reddish, but it's not really, unless it's like solid red, bigger than a penny. He's basically not going to be. He's not going to be matama. So that's why I always tell people: do not be matama. Do not do it on your own. It's not. My words are escaping me tonight. What's the expression for do it on your own? I should just be able to do the DIY. There you go. All right. Okay. Yes, it's not DIY. Don't paskin l'chumra. This. We got our 9th. There we go. All right. See count going around this room or no?
Wouldn't the material of how porous it is and how thick it is depend, like, really affect?
No, it's, so it goes by the area that you see, the surface area.
Technically,
It doesn't
it's
have
a
any.
thicker thing.
Yeah.
and it-
That's another thing that plays into us, and some want to say, yeah, you do have to take that into account, but it doesn't really make sense to hold in so much. But yeah, that kach goes with chachamim, has to be the size, has to be bigger than this. Don't ask questions, don't look a gift horse in the mouth, just take it.
And then I've heard of a share.
Take your
I
cool
don't
and
know
go,
if it's
yeah.
part of this, and maybe
What?
it's even more cool you're mentioning, of $50.
That's a different thing. That's for Maru, but yeah, that's what people get confused about all this stuff. The $50 thing is for a totally different thing. We can discuss in a second. But I know a lot of people get confused with that $50. The $50 thing is a disaster. It just confuses people. It's very unhelpful. But and it, like, maybe Rav Moshe said it. I don't know. Whatever. It's like very unclear. But yeah, the main thing is the share of the penny, and it's only for Nidim Darabon the share of the penny. The $50 for
And
is for different
this rule even applies when it's the time of their period, or that is actually not because you assume. Or not?
even if it's a time of the period, if you have a woman who has such a light period that's like, this is all I get ever, and then you should speak to her about it. But you know, if it doesn't matter, that's a
For a
time.
few days, let's say like that.
You speak to Rob about it, and that depends what it is. If it's really just a small stain, it's a stain, staining and staining. That's it. I don't. If it's that small,
Post-baby,
less
it's always like that.
less than a penny,
Whatever.
huh?
Post baby, a lot of times, it's like.
Yeah,
that.
it's not. Um, I was so confused. I was so confused me sometimes with it, honestly. Let's talk to Rabbi Weberman from Farakwe. I should talk about it. And he was, so staining is staining. Staining is not needed. It's not a period stain. If a woman tells you I'm staining, that's, don't ask any more questions. Yeah, it's not a period. Okay, so that's the shear. That's as far as the shear of the penny. That's kula number one. Okay, now if you don't have that one, you have other ones. What's kula number two is that the chama they were not geiz kesem unless it was found on a dover and makabel tumah. Again, the person can say where this came from. It sounds crazy, but where she finds the stain matters. It matters where she finds it, and the material that she finds it has to be dover and makabel tumah. So if you thought you didn't have to learn Mishnayos tires well because it's not Negeya, you do. You got to know the entire basic. You got to know the whole Seder because you got to really, it's a joke for us, but the real big, the Rameshes world, they had to know Seder time. They had to paskin what is a Makabel Tumah or not. And in order to paskin what's you got to know Mishnayos tires. There's no cutting corners here. There's no shortcuts, and they did. But anyway, so what is the standard things that are not makabel tumah for us nowadays? Are basically you're gonna come in contact with two types of things that are not makabel tumah. Disposable things are generally not considered makabel tumah. Most commonly, we're talking about tissues, toilet paper, because it's just one-time use and it's disposable. They are not makabel tumah. This is not a davar pasha. This is a true from Ramesha. In fact, the Mishnah says that paper is makabel tumah. And they asked from Moshe, so why is that? Why is their paper different? He says paper in those days was a valuable commodity. They didn't you treat paper the way we treated paper, write a quick note and throw it out. They treated paper, it was very valuable. You see, it was muktzah, it's considered very valuable.
Wasn't it like a thicker?
Yeah. Yeah, it's all part of it. So he says it's not, but for us nowadays, that certainly toilet paper tissues, he says, is not makabel, is not makabel tumah. The Yeshiva Sha'olim Lakewood says that in private, Rav Moshe told people that B'nai Torah should be machmir about it. But no one has actual.
Anything disposable in general?
What's another example? What I was thinking of?
Minor.
Yeah.
Liners is another good example. The pads, yeah. Liners is not liners.
Hasidim machmer with that to say that it is makabel.
I don't know about Hasidim. It's Stroll they're more machmer with it. I don't know about Hasidim. Hasidim, a lot of the Hasidim are machmer about pads. They're more
I
machmer.
think I went to Herbst on South.
Yeah.
He told me don't come to me because.
Right.
I'm not-
It could be. I don't know what his Basari is. I don't know generally about Hasidim. I know Vic was machmer about pads. There are you find in Hasidic things they have this thing to sell color pads. And the idea of selling the color pads is for the cool. We're going to get to a second about color is because they hold that they're makabel tumah, therefore they sell color. But if you hold that they're not makabel tumah, there's really no point in it. That is the second. That was one example. I said there are two things that are not makabel tumah. The second thing is things that are mechuber l'karka. And what's mechuber l'karka? L'karka is toilet seats. The toilet bowl I meant. The bowl is considered mechuber l'karka. So any dump found on the toilet bowl is fine. And the Yitzchak paskins that the water in the toilet bowl as well. is considered mechubal karka.
In the Kaling.
Because it's in the clean, it's going back in. Yeah, he's telling the Machlekes Rishonim in the Mishnah McVois. The time Machlekes Rishonim is Hillis had problems with it, how he was learning out the Machlekes Rishonim. But Afal Pikein, the psak sounds solid, and that's in it's possible. And then he go there.
That is Mikabel Tuma.
Huh?
Thought by a fact that is Mikabel Tuma.
Who said? I don't know. It's all in this. He says by Ksomim you can be Mekel. It's not a Pasha Shah. This is by Ksomim you can be Mekel. So yeah, that is that. The interesting part of the Shah, I don't know if you go, it's interesting, whatever. I don't know, maybe I find it interesting and I'm weird, but you'll tell me if you find it interesting. But the interesting part of the Shah is that the Merag line that goes into the toilet, the urine is Makabel Tumah. So you need bittul, the water has to mavatel, the Merag lion, when the dam is found there, because otherwise the dam, where's the dam? Is the dam in the urine or is it in the water? And you're looking like I'm crazy for interesting, but yeah, whatever. Why Merag lion was Makabel Tumah?
On the liquids.
Oh, it's
Sure, Merag lion was listed.
It's middle word.
How does there's more water there than Merag lion? Huh? That's right. No, you don't have to keep flushing. You're good. Yeah, I once was one. I had a woman call me. She said she has a shaila that she's at a doctor's office, and in the sample cup, she found some dam. She saw some dam in there. So I asked her. I said, "Well, when we find dam, in Atos Meraglayim, we're mako. It's fine. Like, why are you asking me this way?" She said, "No, that's only when it's in the toilet because of the water in the toilet. Like now, it's in a cup. It's all straight Meraglayim." I was like, "Whoa, she's right. That's pretty good." And like the idiot, why'd you say that? Like, just gave you your kula, but yeah, yeah. So then you have to don. Is it more than a grist? No, it's not easy. How much is it? I don't know. Yeah, it's not pleasure. But that is the second kula. That's the din of Darshan Makabel Tuma. The third kula is the din of colored. That if it's found in any beged savua, we are meko. The idea being just maybe the color is distorting what you're seeing, and you're not sure if it's really blood. It's some other discharge that is now looking reddish because of the color. Again, don't ask too many questions. If it's colored, you're good. And the Ramah famously says on this, "Lefikach tilba sheisha b'kdei tzavayim k'dei latzila miksamim." He gives you practical advice. And says every woman should be wearing colored underwear in order to be matzel her for ksanim. So again, you got a good one here. When someone is complaining, oh, the rabbis never push us towards kulas. They always look out, especially when it comes to women. They never give women kulas. And in Hilchos Ribbis, Hilchos Mammon, they're always finding every kula in the book. But in Hilchos Nida, they don't help you out at all. You show them this Ramah. It says the Ramah says he specifically what prescribes the kula. Yeah, it depends, but
Going back just to the other kula, the underwear itself is Makabel Tuma.
underwear is Makabel Tumah. The underwear is Makabel Tumah.
The toilet paper is not.
Disposable. Toilet paper is disposable.
Right. So then why is there always a shed like don't look when they wipe if it's not Makabel Tuma anyways?
That's a very good question. Maybe we'll get there. It's a little complicated. Why? But it's maybe we'll get there tonight or next time.
Are
whatever.
wipes different than toilet paper? They're also.
No, really, no. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So yeah, so the Ramah says that Isha should be wearing big dates tzvarim, let's see miksamim. That's always the best eitzah. On a practical note, I tell people it's not wearing. Some college teachers or whatever, people tell you to wear black, or they even sell black pads. Another thing. It's not really a great idea because if a woman will feel that there's a lot of moisture there, there's been discharge for a few days. I don't know what it is, and it's on black. There's nothing a ref can do. Like, your hands are tied. I don't know. You've been feeling or even one day, it was a lot of blood suddenly. I don't know. We talked about this a little bit last time, and that's where the $50 thing about it comes in. That this concept of Riyum Aruba, where even not at the time of the period, it usually happens when something's going on in the body that the body's adjusting to, whether it's medication, whether it's childbirth, whatever. Something's going on, and suddenly she may have a lot of blood out of nowhere, and it's not necessarily her period, but depending on how much it is, it may be enough that we say you have to consider this a period and you have to treat this as a nida midaraisa. But now you come with this black pad and it's clearly moist. It's got a lot going on there. What's someone supposed to do about it? So sometimes you just I don't know. Rabbanan just tell you I don't know what to tell you. I can't. I'm not a magician. So it's just not like a great. Sometimes women like it just makes them feel out of sight, out of mind. If they're wearing black, they don't see it at all. It's the best, but like it just makes it harder on yourself sometimes. Like just and on the Rav. No Rav likes to say, sorry, I can't help you here. Like I know what to do. So, but not that should be the number one consideration, but a consideration. I think we can say. Anyway, so it's just like on a practical level, when you're going for color, do you want something colored that you're able to tell what's happening? You know what's going on still, but it's just colored enough that you're matzu yourself from the Dimidar Rabbanan. So after when you add these three things up, what it basically equals is you got to be a little bit of shlamaz to be any Dimidar Rabbanan. You got to be a little bit unlucky. Because during Zion Akim, there is this minhag that women wear white underwear. That does create more shilas because of that. Because the white underwear during Zion Akim can create more shilas. We'll get to what the point of that was, why that happened. But it does cause more shilas, the wearing white underwear during Zion Akim. Otherwise, you basically don't have any. But even then, like I said, it looks big. It looks bigger than a penny. It's on white underwear, as far as you can tell. Take it through the evidence in a row. You'll learn something about what's red and what's not red. So those are the three things. Like I said, the three things required to become an Idra Rabbanan. And if you're missing one of those three things, an Isha will not become. It will not become an Idra Rabbanan. But again, repeat that it's very important to remember those are all cool. Those are dinim in Idra Rabbanan. When we're dealing with Shash Deraisa, those don't apply. So when we're dealing with Shash Deraisa, well, one case I was just saying when this woman's seeing a lot of blood. So she's like, oh, it's on black, it's on a pad, I'm great. No, you're not great because you're dealing with Shash Nida Midaraisa. Those are all kulas in Nida Midarabanan. They're kind of wild kulas in Nida Midarabanan, but so you can't apply them to Shash Nida Midaraisa. The other cases of Chashash Nida Midaraisa that are very important and create, again, a lot of the shilas that we deal with are there's a concept that when there is a physical sensation, something physically happening in the body at the time or right around the time when dam is found, that physical thing kind of will either mimic the hargasha or mask it that you can't know if there was a hargasha or not. And memela we're choishes for a nida midrasa. Right? That even though normally we need hargasha, and even though women normally do not feel when there's dam tzidam, during these times, because she can't know if she is having hargasha, she doesn't need hargasha anymore, and therefore we consider this to be on the status of nida midiraisa at those times, even though she doesn't actively have hargasha, because something else was going on similar to hargasha that she couldn't know. That's the principle behind all the exceptions. To this rule. The most common exceptions that we deal with on a pretty regular basis when it comes to this rule are bedikas is the most common. Right, I should be familiar with what bedikas are. There are times in the month when a woman is supposed to be doing bedikas. We'll get to it in some of the later shiurim. But generally, the very important rule to always remember nowadays is that a bedika is never going to really help. It's only going to make things potentially worse. Therefore, if you're not supposed to be doing a bedika, do not do a bedika. It's never a good idea. So if you hear your wife say, I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe it's a good idea to do a bedika. Your response is that is a bad idea. It is never a good idea to just do a bedika. But why not? It'll make you feel better. Whatever. Yeah, it's not a good idea to do a bedika. It's not going to make you feel better because then the bedika is going to be a question, and then we're going to go to the Rav and going to say, "Why'd you do a bedika?" And then you're going to feel even worse about it. So do not do it. Don't do it. But the bedikas do essentially create this type of concept where we lose hargasha. You also lose, coming full circle, you also lose the second din of dam v'lekesem by doing the bedika. Remember, there was a second kula that maybe it didn't come from the mucker. But once you do that bedika and you go into Isamakom, now you no longer have that kula of dam v'lekesem because now you're at least cut it down to the point where we really don't have a reasonable tzad where else this came from. except from the uterus, and therefore you had an out, you know where you're saying something, whatever. Are you good? Don't worry.
I say I'm going for a cigarette while we're learning.
Oh, okay, very good. And it won't even bother anyone. Look at that. Yeah, what were you saying?
It's also metabolism.
It doesn't for it, not necessarily as a makabel tuma. It depends. It's less than 3/3, and it's not necessarily makabel tuma, but it doesn't matter because it's not, because that's the main thing. We don't care if it's makabel tuma. It's that makabel tuma is only a kula derabbanan. Here we're doing with shash deraisa. One other example that we'll hit on now, where this kula, where we have this type of ideas during tashmish. The act of tashmish between a man and his wife will do the same type of idea, creates the same situation where you don't know if there was any hargasha. Therefore, any dam found at that time, we are choishesh for we don't need the din hargasha, becomes nidam nidaraisa, and therefore loses all those kulas. So it doesn't matter how it could be the tiniest spot. It doesn't matter that it's less than a gris. We lose all the kulas of the derabanan, and now we're dealing with l'shash nidam nidaraisa, and therefore that creates a lot of shilas.
Would we be chayshish on like that there's a cut or something, or we can't be chayshish on that during tashmish?
If you can, you should always call her. If it ever practically ever happens, Lamais, you should speak to Rav about it. Being a Rav can be super weird sometimes, trust me. But sometimes, yeah, it can be like really awkward. But like at your kid's birthday party and answering show, whatever. You're not gonna get it. I'm gonna stop here. But yeah, you're huh? You're getting in my head tonight. But yeah, I actually don't think it ever happened to a kid's birthday party, but it has happened at very strange times. But anyway, why did I get onto that? Well, you asked something, and right, yes, you should always call her Rav Lemaisa, because yes, makkah is a potential consideration that some makkah was created. But here's where I wanted to come for a circle, because I wanted to tell you that the nafkamina between the hargasha kula and the dam v'lekesem kula is as follows: is like this. Let's say after tashmish you get up and there's a stain on the linen. All right. So now, one of the important eitzahs that college teachers and chassid teachers are supposed to be giving their chassid college is, do not make the mistake of buying white linens. All right. Buy yourself colored linens. I know they're very in, and I know white linens make your house look fancy, but it's a bad idea. Come on, how often is this shiloh going to come up that there's going to be a stain on the linen that's bigger than a penny? You're right. It's not very common, but the once or twice that it does happen, you're going to really regret it. Right, and you're going to take it out on your husband, and you're going to say, why'd you do this to me? Why'd you pick this white linen? Husband's like, what are you talking about? You made me buy these white linens. I couldn't care less what linens we bought. But it may happen once or twice, and you're going to regret it. So a good idea to buy colored linen. So okay, now akatashvish, you get up, and there's a stain there. On the linen, well, you say, great. Doesn't matter that there's a stain on the linen because it's colored, right? We were smart. We listened to our chassid, we listened to our kala teacher. It's colored linen, so we're good. So then you say back, wait a minute though. It's achar tashmish that this was found. Achar tashmish is a kshat hargasha. Where it might be need to be deraisa. Once it's need to be deraisa, we don't care about colored. Colored is only cool in derabbanan, right? So it's a kshat need to be deraisa. So here's where the chab comes in. Here's where you say, we're down to like them. It was found. It's a stain on it's classic stain on something. Dilma asim alma. Is it far fetched to get alma? Yeah, but we don't care. That is the cool of dam kesem. It's a stain found on somewhere. You can say maybe it came from somewhere else. So even though you lost the kula of hargasha, you still have the kula of dam kesem. Now hold on a second. The Shulchan Aruch Harav, who's one of the Baalim of this member, who say there's two kulas. You have the kula of not having hargasha as a din, and you have the kula of dam v'lekesem that maybe it came from somewhere else. As a matter of fact, says though that when you lose the kula of hargasha and you only have dam v'lekesem, like this case, where after Tasha you find a stain on the linens, he says you don't have the kulas of the Derabanan. The kulas of the Derabanan are kulas in hargasha, in not having hargasha, meaning when you don't have hargasha, you have those kulas midrabanan. Those are what the sugyas are. The sugyas of not being makabel tuma colored are in the sugya of hargasha. So he says when you don't have hargasha, you have the kulas midrabanan. But when you have hargasha or chash hargasha, like the case of tashmish, and you have the other derabanan of damvulek hesem, Rabbi Kiva's damvulek hesem, there's no kulas of whatever colored and being less than a penny. So the Shulchan Aruch seems to knock you out and says you don't have that kula. But I brought a raya from the Sidrei Torah that Sidrei Torah disagreed with the Shulchan Aruch because the whole raya of the Sidrei Torah to Shekel Torah. Sidrei Torah asks as follows: state in the halacha that's passed in the Shulchan Aruch is that when a person finds a kesem, you find a stain. When a woman finds a stain. When a woman finds a stain, he says, if it's on a davar she'eino makabel tuma, it's tar. Why didn't he qualify the sin and say it depends when it happened, right? What was going on right before it? It depends, if it was tashmish or there's other cases also of this we'll get to next week. Why didn't he qualify his statement, the Shulchan Aruch? Why? How can he just say any kesem that's found on a davar she'eino makabel tuma is tar? There are some that are not going to be tar on a davar she'eino makabel tuma. There are some that will not be tar if it's found uncolored. Those are stains that are found acher tashmish or acher anything that might mess up your hargasha. So why did the Shulchan Aruch tell us that? Zok the Sidrei Torah mikan raya to my shtickle Torah that there's two dinim. That there's a din hargasha, but even when you lose hargasha, a stain that's just found outside of a woman's body, completely outside, has another din, a din of dam like hesem that maybe you came alma and you could make it because of that. But if that's the Sidrei Torah's raya, then he's obviously doesn't agree with the Shulchan Aruch Rav because his whole raya is from the kula that a davar she'eino makabel tuma will not make a woman a nida, or a colored thing will not make a woman a nida. So he's saying his raya to the shtickle Torah of Damar Kesem is a raya that you use the kulas of colored clothing and you use the kulas of but not be makabel tuma even when you only have the din of Damar Kesem, even though you only have the din of maybe it came me'alma. So the Sidrei Torah would be the Sidrei Torah would l'chara be makel in this case. If you found it on the linens right after tashmish, he would say afal pi that you lose hargasha and should be a deraisa machmas that since you have dam v'lekesem, since it's just a stain, you could be makel with the kulas of the fact that it's found on colored or on a davar she'eino makabel tuma. So that would be one of the nafkaminas when you put this shtickle together with the Shulchan Aruch Rav's way of looking at it and the Sidrei Torah's way of looking at it, that can makel. I found Rabbi first that he's makel based on the Sidrei Torah in this case, and would say that if it was colored linen you could be makel on it. But just to wrap up with one point, and maybe we'll start from this point the next time. If a woman did a kinuach, right, means a wiping right after tashmish, and found dam on it. There we would not be makel, even though the kinuach is a davar she'eino makabel tuma. These are one of the cases where we say don't look when it's right after tashmish. Why? What's the difference? Because kinuach is so close to the body that you lose dam v'lekesem. So you don't have hargasha, you don't have the kula hargasha because it was right after tashmish, and you also do not have the kula of dam v'lekesem, maybe it came alma because it's so close to that part of the body that we have to nem on that it came from the body. So that's a difference. And this he speaks it out in the Sefer Rebbe first that this is a difference between if acher tashmish a woman does the kinuach wipes or acher tashmish finds it on linens. It's not on linens, then you could be makel with a dinim derabanan of colored and davar she'eino makabel tuma. But if it's a kinuach, you cannot be makel because you lose the halacha of dam v'lekesem. A sam kinuach what?
Is that meaning not after tashmish?
No, sam kinuach is fine because you have the kula of hargasha. When it's a regular wiping, then there was no hargasha, and then you can make all because of that. That's for sure. Even though some people want to be machmer with kinuach, that not. They want to be machmer because of certain things that have to do with this. But yeah, I mean, astam we know on that kinuach has the kula hargasha, and therefore you could be made. But when you have kinuach in situations where there may have been hargasha, that's where we might be machmer. All right, here back to you. We got 9.
Of course.
Okay.
Weird.
You don't know.
It's always
Yeah.
9.
It is always 9. 9 riders. All right. Talmud Muvuk, it's nice to see you. We can see you, Mr. Shabbos?
Well, yeah, I don't know. You saw that no one else answered.
Yeah, okay, I love that with the grasshoppers. What an idiot. What an idiot. But yeah, you're Ubering either way.
Mirza Hashem, that's the plan.
All right, looking forward.
See you, Mr. Shabbos. Good Shabbos,
See ya.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Bye.